Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lauren. I have a couple things to announce before we get into this episode, which I also wanted to give a little bit of an intro to. So before I introduce the episode, I wanted to say if you're listening to this early as it comes out on Monday, February 26th, we do have the Energy in Motion class tonight. So inside the Living on Lemonade Facebook group, I do a monthly class. February's topic is emotions. So that's happening live inside the Living on Lemonade Facebook community tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're hearing this in time to pop in or just as a reminder, next is I will be announcing a new offer tonight, going wide out into like the public after the Energy in Motion class. And I guess I'll give you a little bit of the details because you're still kind of so basically my idea around it was to offer it to my um, private groups first, my communities, the people who like keep up with me and all the things, just as a way to kind of give them first dibs. So essentially, it's going to be a program called Build Your Soul Care Tool Belt. And it's taking all of the wisdom and learning and experience that I have had in the last couple years. It's been a rough couple years, and I'm just kind of turning it into a gold nugget that can help other people. The pre-work will start March 10th. It's a 5-week series, so 5 modules. They'll come out every week. I'll go live into the Facebook group. For those not on social media, the modules will be uploaded to a private YouTube channel that you will have lifetime access to. The investment's $111 and there's 13 spots. So I wanted to keep it more intimate. Anywho, more details will be released tonight at 8 after 8 p.m. when I do the energy and motion training. So that's that. I want to get that out of the way, just like what's coming up. Now to introduce you a little bit to this episode, my friend Theresa and we know each other through network marketing primarily, but now we've become friends outside of that. So we have a fun conversation for Theresa's podcast. It's self-titled Theresa Porter. You can find it on different platforms. And she has a podcast on joy and what it means to other people and just having discussions around that. So we chat about joy. And this was an interview. She was basically interviewing me, but allowed me to use it for this podcast. And then we're going to do a part 2 where I interview her. So stay tuned for that. I'm so excited to release this episode for you. I would love to know what you think. I think we had just a really beautiful and honest conversation, and I hope that it inspires others because I think that's what our experience is for, to help other people and just make life a little easier. So I'd love to know what you think. And without further ado, here's the episode, and we'll see you inside the next one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Theresa Porter, and welcome to my podcast where I'll be looking at joy and what it means to different people. Today, I have with me Lauren. So, Lauren is a student of life who is dedicated to sharing wisdom extracted from some of her most difficult seasons. She's a shift worker, and that is for the first responder for the Coast Guard, which I think is fascinating. I'll get into some questions I have on that. Lauren has been working on a passion project that came to be through an intuitive nudge and grief due to the loss of her dad from cancer in 2022. That passion project is her brand, which is Living with Lemonade with Lauren. So, Lauren, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
And
for having me.
yeah, it's very exciting. And I guess this will be getting posted on your podcast as well, Living with Lemonade with Lauren. So I will kind of turn it over to you to kind of maybe do a greeting for your followers and whoever listens to your podcast.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lauren. And today Theresa and I are talking about joy. And thank you so much for reaching out so we can have this wonderful conversation. And before we get going, I'd love to have an intro from you. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am a few things. I wear many hats. So I used to be in the corporate world. I left that job completely and threw myself into my work, which is psychic mediumship. I have many different abilities. So it's one of those things where I can help people on a vast variety in terms of general readings. And you know what? Actually, I don't think I've ever touched base on this in my podcast of what I do myself. So this is a good thing. So general readings, connecting
Mm.
with past loved ones, energy work and healing, helping with like attachments or hauntings, blessings of people, places, things, land, all that stuff. I feel with my body. So sometimes I'm doing readings and I'll get pains and aches, or I'm connecting with someone and I'll feel different things. So it's a beautiful ability. And I can also do channeling. And that's where my book has come to be, Guided Lifelong Self-Awareness Techniques to Bring You More Joy. And that's not the right title, but no, this it is to raise your vibration and bring you more joy. I'm like right off today. That's okay. So the book was actually channeled information from my guides. So I'm an author of that. I am working on a second book, which is based
Amazing.
actually on my life, where this one is to help people raise their vibration, become more happy, find their path. And now I have this podcast, and I also do teaching, coaching. I have group meditations I run. I try to do at least once a month. So yeah, I got a whole bunch of different stuff going on. And as soon as I decided I wanted to do this podcast, I knew that you were one of the people that I wanted to have on. I
Oh,
love
thank
your
you.
journey. I love what you do, and I love the message you're sending out. So, if you don't mind, if I kind of start off with the first question based on that.
Yeah, let's get going.
Before I even ask the first question, I just want to state how important what you do is, because me myself, I've experienced depression. I think so many have on different levels. Some of them it can be a light depression, some of them it can be like really severe, and everywhere in between. I don't think there's no staple on this is what it is. It's a wide range, and I think that that is what I love about what you're doing, is opening up the floodgates of the understanding that it's something that is here, it's something we go through, but that at the same time everything changes. It's like this is a time in our life, push forward, you can do it, little baby steps, take on what you can. And if you need a rest day, you take that rest day. If you need to just crash, you crash. But always like that nice soft reminder that I think you give everybody to make sure that they keep going, that they keep on, and they keep themselves um, you know, thinking to celebrate even the smallest of steps. So I just want to say that the living with living on lemonade with Lauren. I'll start speaking properly at some point. I think, yeah,
Which is
I think
hard.
yeah, it's such an amazing, amazing thing to be doing. And it's really needed, because I think that there's a lot of people going through some really heavy stuff right now. And it's being really misunderstood. And it's leading people to go down paths that they end up regretting. And I think that if we can learn to stop and sit within the emotions we have, really feel them, let ourselves process them and move forward, it's going to be so much healthier. So, work like yours is so needed and so beneficial, and I get to see it in people when I'm working on, you know, like energy cleaning and healing. Like that
Mhm.
stuff comes with words and images, and I get to see that it can get heavy. So I just want to say, like, congrats on this accomplishment, following through with it and getting it done, and really bearing yourself in like the metaphorical naked way that you are, to really kind of let people feel and know that, you know, it's not just them. So, and I can relate as well, because, you know,
Nice.
been through a lot, been
Yeah.
through a ton of stuff. So I really wanted to ask you about being a first responder for the Coast Guard. So you've got a lot you're dealing with, a lot you're delving into. And I think that when you get calls and situations or radio calls on, you know, issues with ships sinking, like all these things, you're bringing that home sometimes. I can kind of relate in the terms of being like an auto adjuster and dealing with the accidents and the deaths and things like that. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, it does come home a little bit with you.
Mhm.
So, for you and the difficulties that you've experienced in terms of deaths and losing loved ones and all of that, and then having a job that kind of brings that front and center for you, how do you think that it's played a part in your life in terms of really defining that need? to make sure that you're still enjoying yourself and allowing yourself to process?
Ooh.
Oh, big question, eh? Starting out
Yeah.
strong. Start.
Oh man, how do I even answer that?
Maybe it's something you haven't even realized yet,
Yeah,
right?
maybe. Like how I bring joy into all the rest of it, essentially, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because it's a
I
lot. It can be really heavy.
Yeah, I mean, with I would say my life experience kind of it's built me up within and allowed me in my job to be a more empathetic person and to just conduct myself in a way on the radio and be that we have to be that kind of constant that um like if we get worked up on the radio, that energy travels, and the people who actually are in the incident, they need that calm on the radio on the other end to kind of talk them through things, reassure them that helps on the way. And sometimes I have to check my own emotions because if it's something that triggers a past experience in my own life, I have to remember that I need to disconnect at this time so that I can do my job and fulfill it. And then I have tools afterwards to kind of debrief from it and collect myself again. But also, if it brings up something that's triggered and I have to disconnect, to have that reconnection after and just allow the emotions because I see emotions as energy in motion. They are signals to our body, they're communicators. Society puts a lot of labels on emotion. They label them as positive, as negative, and truly I think the negative ones in quote are really just the ones that make us uncomfortable. It doesn't mean they're negative. They're giving us information to our bodies that we need to listen to. So with the work that I do, obviously things can get pretty heated sometimes. Um, but I see the journey that I've walked this far has given me the strength to do my job well and to really be that reassuring voice on the radio for people who are in need. Because sometimes I understand what they're going through, and I obviously can't tell them that, but I can kind of be strong in who I am to help them, and it translates, right? They're always grateful in the end to have had someone who has really supported them, and they feel supported as I do my job. Does
Yeah.
that kind of
Oh
yeah.
my god, you know what? And it's just what you're saying, it reminds me of things that I say during my readings or even when I'm having talks with people. Or if I'm doing like a larger event and I do like a little bit of a talk, I always tell people, I'm like, everything is energy, everything. And it's not that it's good and it's bad, it's just that it's vibrating at a different level. So it's just think of the level, like the levels go up, they go down, and it's just like life. We go up, we go down, and we just continue on, right? Like nothing is forever. And it's those moments of understanding that when you're in the thick of it at the bottom, just know that it'll come back up. But when it comes back up, enjoy it as much as you can because you never know when or if it'll dive back down. So it's being appreciative of those big, thick, heavy learning moments and taking them more as like an appreciative thing to understand that this is you growing, you learning to take on new skills, new abilities, new understandings. So I love how you said that. But yeah, it can be a lot in terms of like your job because yeah, I guess you have to be that calming voice that like calm in the storm. Literally,
Yeah.
sometimes not even
Literally.
like, literally the
I
calm in the
can't.
storm.
Yeah, like if someone is on a boat that's on fire or taking on water, I can't be freaking out because they're already freaking out. I have to
Is
be
that
able
the
to
hut you're on fire?
yeah, I have to talk them down because and I have a passion for neuroscience and biology and how the body works. So I understand our brain and that we have that fear center, that amygdala that kicks up when we're in a state of especially like imminent danger and or that prefrontal cortex in the front of our brain is the problem solving, reasoning, processing part of our brain when we get stressed out the amygdala fires up, the prefrontal cortex shuts down. This is why people freeze in situations, right? So they panic. I've come on. I've witnessed, car accidents, and the person like wants to call their boss to say they're going to be late for work and can't doesn't know how to do it. They just kind of shut down. So understanding that part of our biology, I'm able to help kind of talk them down and ask them the right questions and just have a very calming, steady voice so that it kind of can bring that part of the brain back on for them so then they can give me the information I need so that I can get the help that they need.
Yeah. And I think that it's amazing how you've learned to really kind of center yourself. And just with listening to your podcast myself, uh, it's so telling on the different types of loss you've experienced right from a young age. And I know that I've listened to your podcast because I can say the first loss was your cat, I believe, or no, it was
Nicole.
well, no, because I
Nicole.
think you had a cat that passed away before Nicole, wasn't it?
No, she was a couple years after. She was like my grief counselor for
Oh,
Nicole.
that's right. It was a
Yeah.
family member when you were very young. So it
Yeah,
was your
like my
family.
great grandpa when I was 5.
Yeah, that and then Nicole, then the cat. Okay.
Yeah. There's so many, it's hard to keep them in line, right?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like it kind of shows like we don't stop and think about these things that happen when we were very young and how they've affected us. So it's amazing to see how you've had these different traumas through your life and the different tools that you've picked up to kind of learn how to cope and be able to be that calm in the storm when people need. So, in terms of like all the different things that you've learned along the way, which one is it, if you could pick one, which tool that you would say you have in your tool belt is your favorite or your most go to in terms of um, being able to recalm yourself or recenter yourself should you be in a moment of kind of like panic or kind of losing that joy state.
Always my breath. If I have the time and space to do a practice, obviously it depends on the time of year. I don't have anything set up for the summertime. I like to go and do my cold dips. But if I'm stuck in a moment where like I'm sitting at my desk and something happens that reminds me of an incident that I've had that was activating to my nervous system, I always come back to my breath because physiologically this is how we can control that stress, that fear response. It's my greatest tool. It saved me and changed my life in so many ways. And then if I am able to get out into and go into the lake, I live near Lake Huron. And I go into the lake in the winter. If I have the time to do that, I like to add that element in with the breath work. But if I'm just in a moment, something happens that's dysregulating, always come back to my breath because I can always bring myself back to the present moment, reassure my body that I'm in no imminent danger, and just kind of settle myself and then carry on.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get you to hang on one sec. I'm gonna have to cut this clip out because I don't know if you
Okay.
can hear my dog freaking
Yeah,
out.
it's all
She's
good.
never done this before during one of the podcasts or in my readings. I don't know why she's doing it
All
now.
good.
Oh my god. What are you doing? No, we don't do that. Come here. Come here. What are you do? Why are you like hiding and freaking out? Come here. What's the matter? Come here. Come on. Are you okay? Do you need something? Because I'm busy right now. Here, let me get your phone. Oh my gosh, Marley. You stop it. I will be a minute. No more. I mean it. She knew she was doing something wrong because as soon as I went out, she was hiding around the other side of my hutch.
Oh
I'm like,
no,
little brat. Okay, so I'll have to cut this portion out.
that's okay.
Uh, so, okay. So I like that you started to talk about that because I actually, as you know, I just recently did a cold plunge,
Yeah.
and it was a moment where you kind of look into it and you're like kind of dreading it. It's something different, something new, something that you're not familiar with. But as soon as you jump into it, you can stop and see the benefits almost immediately. So I did the cold plunge. It was for a charity, and then I jumped into a hot tub right after, and it was like I could just walk around. Like the cold wasn't even. It's like my body just
Yeah,
like totally calmed and was okay with it all. And being in the cold water, everyone was like, "Jump in, get out." I like lowered in. Well, I think I sent you the video
I
there.
did. I did see it.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna enjoy this. So like,
Yeah.
as much as everybody's like, there's no enjoyment in it, I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy this. So it's one of those things where I think that if people can learn, it's like the breath work in those moments was so important to like make sure you're keeping the body calm. Like don't get caught up in the hecticness of all the things in your mind and the initial, uh, you know, going in. It's with anything in that moment it was the water, but in life it could be anything as something's happening, as something's occurring. It's like making sure you stop and like the breath work
Yeah.
and learn that. That's I love that. Um, Now I wanted to kind of mention something that I heard you mention in your podcast, and I absolutely loved it because it was kind of like teaching people along the journey of like you're going to be going through things, different things are going to happen, but like don't take it as a hit. Like oh, I did that. Like oh, being shamed. No, everybody does everything, right? Like there's times in my life where I can sit here and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that or that wasn't the best or the nicest, but I'm always very honest about it because I look at it as like, well, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't know better. Now I do. So, what you had stated in your podcast was let's leave out the shame, leave out the judgment, and just say, going forward, this is how I want to do things. And then you started talking about um, learning to like date yourself, to learn yourself, and really kind of take the time for yourself. I really love that. Now, was there a pivotal moment in your life that kind of made you stop and look at yourself and go, okay, I'm not going to judge myself. I'm going to go, uh, and moving forward, this is how I want to do things. Like I learned.
Um, I I had a I was young. I was like 19 or whatever, and I just had a situation where I found myself um it was after like my first breakup, right? But in that experience, I had tied my identity so much to that person that when the relationship was over, I didn't know who I was anymore. And I had to kind of start from scratch. So that's where that like dating myself thing was. And I would just like go for dinner by myself or go to a movie by myself and kind of get to know myself. And um in terms of just letting it go, it's just like, oh, where do I want to go with that? You got some big questions, some doozies. Ooh. Can you say that one more time?
The question that I have, it's just kind of like where was there a pivotal moment in your life where you really saw yourself kind of implementing that line itself of we're going to leave out the judgment, leave out the shame. We're just going to say going forward, this is how I want to do things. Where it was really pivotal for you.
Um, I can't think of any like particular moment, but I would say it's been more prominent in like the more recent years of just um as I've gotten to know myself, and it's a lifelong journey, right? Like I did it when I was 19, but then I was in a when I was training for this job, I'm out east for 6 months, kind of by well with my colleagues or classmates, but by myself, right? So I had a lot of downtime. So I'm like, I'm gonna check in with where I'm at with myself and see where I'm at and what brings me joy and connect back with that. And I think just through that, looking back on experiences and having that conscious check-in, I start to learn that those experiences have brought me where I am today. And there's no reason in feeling shame for it, because as long as I can learn from it, that's the important part. So
Yeah.
I think just through the awareness and the curiosity is like such a big word for me. Just get curious about life and where you're at and why we do the things we do. If we're behaving in a way that like ends up feeling cringy, why is that? Get curious about it. Is it early development kind of programming, subconscious programming that's coming into play? Is it even my belief, or is it something that my parents instilled in me? And if it doesn't serve me, how can I reframe it and rewire my brain, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like what did you pick up from somebody else, and what do you really need to continue to hold on or maybe let go of? I think that's
Yeah,
like
just a
that's even
journey.
that's one of the chapters in my book too. It's like people needing to learn like what have you picked up and what do you really need to carry forward and
Yeah,
what do you need to kind of let go of.
yeah,
So
exactly.
and within like creating your podcast um and being able to complete it and really share your journey and everything you've been through, what has that meant for you in terms of really kind of putting yourself in a joyous place? And because I know that as much as it's healing for everybody else, it is self healing, being able to let that out, get it out, and share those moments.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and how it's it's helped me after a season of not in a large way, not in every facet of my life, but in a large way, not feeling like I had a voice and that I could speak up. This podcast has given me the opportunity to kind of find my voice again in different ways. I've always been open about my experiences, especially with grief, because I just think there's so much to it. It's such a you can't define it in any way. It's different for everybody, even each loss or life circumstance. It doesn't just have to be a loss of a loved one, as I talk about in my podcast, but
Yeah,
each you know, experience with grief is different. And having that awareness, and I feel like grief is a topic that society doesn't acknowledge the way that it needs to be, because everyone goes through it, and we
yeah,
need to be able to have those honest conversations. So I don't have any problem talking about things, either from kind of not like a surface level, but then I dive deeper. I'm not afraid to talk about what it has felt like for me to kind of feel like I'm living in the dark, and that there's no light around me, no joy, no purpose, how that can feel in grief, because I know that I'm not the only one. And we're talking about things like this, and we want to help others with their mental health and their well-being, and just finding joy and and living an authentic life. We have to talk about the darkness too. But within that, talking about the tools that help us to navigate the darkness and have those glimmers of light until we can walk back into more light, if that makes sense. Like when it's having the joyous things, we also can't we can if we want, I guess. I don't find it helpful to only focus on the good, to like bypass the difficult time. We're in a difficult time because there's something we need to journey through. There's mud we need to sledge through. There's lessons we need to learn. So I think we need to be able it's important to embrace it in that moment, as difficult and uncomfortable as it is. But having those tools that bring those glimmers of light throughout the darkness, so that we still have some sort of compass, we're not navigating it aimlessly. So when we come out the other end, we have something that we can take away from the horrible experience, or however that was uncomfortable, and we can start to embody it and use it to pay it forward, to help the next person that's struggling with the thing we just went through. It's like shining a flashlight, having that flashlight when we reach the light, that we can shine back on that next person. And that was one of the understandings that I came to after losing Nicole when we were 12. First thing was, and we're talking about joy here, so it's relevant. The first thing was I committed, because I lost. So for anyone who's not familiar with my story, a friend of mine, we were born a day apart. She was killed in a car accident when we were 12, the summer we were 12, just before we turned 13. And she and I, we looked similar, we acted similar. I call her my twin soul. We were like two peas in a pod. And losing her was just, it was life changing. And I made a commitment, I made a promise to her that I would live twice as big for the rest of my life for both of us. So that's kind of where my Joyce journey started. And the other commitment I kind of came into the understanding of was that especially because I was 12. Like, I didn't have any friends who understood me because I met Nicole through swimming lessons, so all my school friends didn't get it. I then, as I'm going through this grief journey, then I lost my cat a couple years later, and my grandpa, so it was like an ongoing thing. I was the person that all of my friends came to when they started going through these similar things because they're like, I know you've gone through this, and I've always been I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I've always talked about it and been open about it, so they know that they can come to me, they know about my experience. So I decided, hey, this is an opportunity of me to transform my pain to some purpose, and then I see that metaphorically as like shining a flashlight to help guide the person that's coming behind me in something I just experienced and have embodied. Otherwise, I don't know why I'm here, right? That's why are we here if we can't share our experiences and help each other along the way? Society wants us to not talk about these things, and then it just creates this isolation in this global community, and I think I don't agree with it, so I'm trying to kind of push the boundary on those things.
Yeah, yeah, I think that is so important. I think, and that's also why my second book I'm writing is based on me and the trials I've been through.
Yep.
And it's kind of like trying to normalize the discussion of different things that can occur, and learning to find forgiveness, or learning to find joy after certain things happen. So and I think that's why I was said at the beginning why it's so important that you do what you do, because if we can't learn to open up and express, it's only going to keep ourselves down, right? Energetically, being someone who can kind of work with that, I get to see how much it sluggishly like brings people down, how much it can cause problems, it can cause health issues, physical issues. It can cause all sorts of different problems that kind of just grow and grow and grow. So it's so important to be able to really kind of dive in and say, you know what, it's okay. I hear you. And also for those who are going through something and maybe don't know where to reach out or who they can reach out to know that you've created this beautiful Living on Lemonade with Lauren. It's like this beautiful, like it's like a compact product that somebody could go and find anywhere. Like obviously there's also helplines and things like that. But if in the moment it's like, okay, I'm getting through today, let me listen to one of Lauren's episodes and it can give me the push. So that's where it's like, yeah, it's so important. And that's why I'm writing too. So if people can see the book that I'm working on now, when it does come out, maybe they can read it and go, oh, well, she did it, she got past it. But that's where we all need to learn to open up. So I very much agree with what you're saying. It's like we all went through something. It's okay. If we're the one who messed up, it's okay. Like you're not who you were, right? Like we're forever, just like moments in time, and how we always say everything is forever changing. So are we. So, there's people who have committed murders. Now we look at them as like these amazing people in society. It's a learning moment where they've stopped and went, oh my God, what did I do? And
Yeah.
they did whatever they could to make something amazing out of it. And I think that's what we need to start like pushing each other to do, is to kind of wrap our head around it, right? Like it's okay. We've all been there. So I think
Yeah,
I
and
I very much agree.
doing like the self exploration so that it's nice to have the external um resources when we're going through something difficult, counseling and those types of things. But I am very passionate about teaching people how to find the strength within themselves, those little glimmers, and exploring and getting curious about what brings them joy so that they have a tool belt of things that when they're having a bad day or they're really stuck in a difficult place, what can they reach for that's going to bring them joy, that's just going to give them that glimmer of light in the darkness where they currently are. And maybe it doesn't light up for the whole day, but it just gives them that glimmer of hope so that they know that there's something on the other end of it and it's not going to be dark forever.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's just staying positive, like try to get yourself in the more positive as you possibly can through the journey. So, with where everything you've been through, the things you've experienced, and where you've gotten yourself to today, I know for me, what joy was is not what I would look at it to be today. And I'm just wondering for you along your path, where do you think you are within that whole structure of joy and the representation of it in your life today versus previous?
Yeah. Um, I guess like previously I didn't think about joy in any real official sense. I know I don't remember if I was in middle school or when I watched this movie, but it's called Pay It Forward. And
Seen it.
it's really about random acts of kindness. And it really resonated with me at the time. I was just that like dorky little kid that would do the sweet things. And I mean, in middle school, you know those white rocks that you just find on the ground, but if they you can use them as like chalk.
Yeah.
So I, my friend and I picked a couple up one morning at school and we were writing good morning and have a great day messages on. We almost got suspended because we technically vandalized the school, but it was with putting loving messages with a rock on the walls, like the brick walls of the school. Good morning, have a great day. We got in trouble for it. But it's always been a thing. I just like I flow out with like just I'm a self-proclaimed dork. I find that term as a term of endearment. So if people are triggered, like um my dad, I lovingly call him my dork twin. He and I just got each other in that way. So joy coming out in those little senses, but not really thinking a whole lot about it. And then after watching that movie, just being more conscious of like holding the door for people. That brings me to like because you just get that little like if I call them heart hugs where it feels good to give. It feels good to just like take a take an extra moment, let that person in traffic because maybe they didn't see the sign, like whatever. Um, and then as I've kind of journeyed and become more aware of these things, these again, these small things, they don't have to be like big profound things. It's about having many small things throughout your day, being late for work, and as you're approaching the intersection the light turns green, those little tiny things. And it ends up being part of it's my lifestyle now, right? Like obviously I go through dark times, but I always reach for those teeny tiny things to help me go through. And you know, joy for me now is yeah, it's a part of it's a kind of a way of life, but I wrote a couple little messages or notes here. What joy means to me now, feeling of full authenticity. When you just you feel expansive in your body, it feels like home in your body. When you're doing these things that bring you joy, you just feel like nothing could go wrong. You're fully at home in yourself. It feels like a heart hug, like you just you're it's when that abundance, that energy of abundance and overflow happens and you're in such a good mood because you did something to fill your, I call it your soul cup. You've done the soul practices, your self-care practices if you want to call it that. And this is the place where you're like, I want to go do something for someone else because I feel so lit up and so um yeah, just so expanded within. So that's joy for me. It's the small things, sometimes it's the big things, but I feel like the little things really are the big things. And
Yeah.
just making it a practice every day.
Yeah. It's getting that perfect parking spot when you go somewhere that's really busy.
Right? But like having that mindfulness to notice and be and show gratitude because gratitude practices and there's studies of it, how it changes the brain and how it makes you live a better life. Having
Yep.
those just, yeah, thank you. It's just like most people go through life on like autopilot and they don't notice these things when we can start to wake up to these small blessings every day. It just it adds sparkle to our life. And
Oh,
that's
exactly.
the life.
Yeah, it's like pulling into that spot and being like, "Oh my god, look at the amazing spot I got. Thank you so much to the
Perfect.
universe." Like, and going out and getting out of your car and feeling like you're so blessed to pulling in being like, "Okay, now I gotta get out and I gotta go in and I gotta get this done and I can't forget this and I can't forget that." And it's like all these things, and you didn't stop to recognize, hey, you just got the best spot in the entire parking lot. And then other moments, it's like, maybe you're going through something tough, but still being able to go, oh, hey, you know what? It's a pretty good spot. Some other stuff might be going on right now, but it's a pretty sweet spot I got.
It
And
becomes
it
like a
just
check-in. right?
Yeah.
It's like a check-in when things aren't great. It helps add a little bit of accountability if you want to say it that way, but just like, yeah, you kind of check yourself. You have that like that glimmer, that little sparkle of something, and then you go, hey, it's not so bad, or like, can I reframe this? Because life's is life happening to me or for me? Am I a victim in my experience? Or can I pull back my power and then just step fully into myself and let this just be what it is, because our experiences are also neutral, right? And in the grand scheme of things, if we choose to be a victim to it, then we're choosing to let life have the power. But if we can decide this is an experience I need to go through and there's going to be learning and embodiment on the end of it, how can I just kind of embrace it? I don't know. We don't have to like it. That was one of my aunt's quotes
Yes.
that I live by. She used to say, we don't have to like it, Lauren. And it's like, a freaking men, because I've been through a lot of things I don't freaking like, but
Yeah.
I have to endure
Yeah.
it. And the other thing she used to say was, if you don't laugh, you cry. Because sometimes you're in those situations where it's just like, how is this happening? And you just have to find a way to laugh about it because it's so ridiculous that if you don't laugh about it, you're going to cry or just get super angry. So find something to laugh about. Maybe do both. Maybe cry while you're laughing and just find the ridiculousness of it and try to it helps to diffuse the weight of what can be a really heavy situation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think, I've been in situations, many of them where I've just started to laugh because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like
Like,
when does this happen? Like this is such like a out to left field situation.
yeah,
I'm like, no one would even believe me if I told them. So it's those moments where I'm like, I'm laughing because everybody else is looking at it and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm sitting here laughing. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
like how is this real
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
You're
How is
just
this
like, oh
happening?
my gosh.
Yeah. And then I just go, I'm sure it'll be fine. And just like, give me a couple months
Yeah,
or a couple days or a couple weeks, or maybe it's a year. Everybody's time frame is different. It's like just, it is what it is, but it's
yeah,
going to teach you something at the end. It's an amazing journey.
yeah,
So
it sure is.
yeah. And I'm so glad that you're doing what you do and that you share what you share for the exact reason that like what you said, which is to really teach people it's okay to open up, but also like here are some tools to help you as you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like let's just, if we have to be human, we have to come here and be in this meat suit. Like, let's make it as the least painful it needs to be. Like we make it hard on ourselves and we don't need to.
No, no, absolutely
Choice.
not. Yeah, I know, like, for me, I get shown some stuff by my guides, and some of it's that, there are certain things in our life that we're meant to experience. These things are meant to happen. And there's other aspects of it which are free will, free reign. So it's kind of like being able to have fun within this life. It's like, okay, these things are going to happen, but in between here and there is dabbled situations where you get to just kind of have fun with life. Choose to have joy or choose to wallow, choose to feel stuck, choose to throw yourself out into excitement. It's like the choices, all the different choices. And they kind of show how these things are going to happen, but this is kind of do what you want with this time. And it's being able to go, yeah, you know what, I'm going to choose to make it a good time.
Yeah. And like even again, we don't have to like every situation. Our
Mhm.
primitive brain likes to feel like it has control. It's an evolutionary thing, right? So then we feel safe and we feel like we're going to survive. It doesn't care about thriving, it's surviving. So this is why we have to have those conscious practices so that we can actually survive, because our brain doesn't care about that. It just wants to survive. And having that consciousness, I had a visual come to me while you were talking, and it's just like the difference between, so there's these pivotal things that I believe that we come here with life lessons that we choose to learn, and it's going to happen either way. We can resist it. It's like holding our fist closed because we want to control over it and it has to be a certain way. When our fist is closed, we can't receive the whatever we're supposed to learn and how we're
Yeah.
supposed to evolve going forward. And the visual that I got was, we either let life throw us around and be victim to it like a boat in the storm, or we recognize we're in a storm and we use the tools we have to make sure we have our hands on the wheel and be in charge of navigating through the storm. Doesn't mean the storm's fun or that we like it, but do we have control to navigate through the storm, or are we going to let it like thrash us around and get sick and smash our head against the walls of each side of the boat or whatever, metaphorically. We get to
Yeah.
choose that.
Yeah. It's just whether you're going to fully steer with both hands or throw your hands up and be like, "Ah, I can't."
You gotta surrender enough to the storm, but use the tools to keep the hands on the wheel so that you can make it out the other end.
Yeah.
Whew. That just like never saw it that way, but I'm like, wow, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I think it's also like in the midst of all that, there's also those moments where you have to learn to just have that blind faith. So as
Yes.
much as you need to have your hands on both wheels, sometimes there's time where you go, okay, you know what? Just please just lead me. Just take me where I need to go.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah, Jesus, take the wheel. I need a minute. I need,
Literally,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. It's like, well, and I've had another metaphor too before. It's like walking through fog. We can't see much in front of us, but we have to trust that as long as we're equipped and we're aware and careful, we can still walk through. We're eventually going to hit the end of the wall of it, right? But
Yeah,
it doesn't feel comfortable in the meantime. It's scary because we can't see around us. We can't maybe see very far in front of us, but we have to trust and just keep taking those steps forwards, navigating, knowing that eventually the skies are going to clear and we're going to see again. But just that's where the
exactly.
surrender part comes in, right? Like you're in the storm, there's clouds, it's sleeting, you can't see, you got to like hold on as best you can, but also surrender to the fact that like as long as I hold on and ride this out, the storm will eventually pass.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. It's like if you think of yourself out in the ocean, it's not always the weather is changing like
Yeah.
crazy. It's calm as can be, and then the waves come, and then all of a sudden it's a storm, and then the sun's out. It's like you never know. That's what life is. It's just when you're out on the water, maybe sometimes when you're far out, the changes are much more dramatic and much more in your face. Where life, sometimes it can be like that, but sometimes it's a lot more subtle or it's a lot more prolonged or, different time frames. And it's all going to be different. It's like, take it as it comes, take it in stride, being able to
Yeah.
continue. Yeah. To find that hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe we just need to throw our life preserver on and hold on to a post or something, right?
Yeah.
It's got to clip
Sometimes, no
and
matter how hard you try to swim, swimming isn't going to be the
no.
answer to the situation. Sometimes you just got to, yeah, like let the life preserver take over.
Just hold on. Use the tools to keep your head above water and just hold on and wait till the waves subside a bit.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, with creating the podcast and having opened yourself up as much as you have, has there been like a pivotal moment for you within that time that has caused you to really give appreciation and gratitude to yourself for doing this? Like, was there someone who came to you and showed you gratitude for how this is assisting them that's made a big difference for you?
Oh, yeah. And again, I call them heart hugs, right? It's nice when we get those affirmations of where that we're on the right path, but we still have to have that compass that within that knows that we are. But
Yeah.
I've had people I had one person comment in a live training. I do kind of workshops, or I have a topic every month in the Living on Lemonade Facebook group that I teach on. And I was doing the live training. I can't remember if she was live or she was watching the replay, but she commented and she said, and it was I believe the topic was on boundaries. Anyway, whatever the topic was, she said, I've done a lot of I've done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of reading and trying to understand this, and she's like, it's never clicked the way that it has with how you said it. And it's not to say that what I said is any better than anyone else, and especially the professionals, right? I'm not a professional. I didn't go to school for psychology. I'm very interested in it, but the fact that when we work continuously work on ourselves and evolve, we end up being magnetic to the people who are meant to hear our message in the way that it's going to land for them. We authentically and organically call in our own tribe, the people that just they hear what we say and they're like, yeah. And it could be something, it could be a message they've heard 80 times. It just didn't land the same way as the way that I just said it, or whoever they're really just drawn to, right? And I've had that same with mentors where I'm just like, "Oh my God." Or they've said it a few different times, but it's just that one time when we're ready to receive it. And I know that I'm meant to work with them or to learn from them, because it's just like you have that moment, you kind of stop in your tracks and it's like, whoa. And I've had people come to me with that of like, oh my gosh. Or with the podcast, I have some recorded meditations, and I had a friend come to me and said, you know what? Uh, I have a hard time sleeping through the night. And when I wake up, I turn on one of your podcast episodes because I find your voice very soothing and it helps me go back to sleep. If you would ever consider it, I would love if you would record a nighttime meditation, like a one to help people wind down. And I have my own visualizations and stuff when I have a hard time sleeping. So I'm like, again, I'm just sharing my tools. I'm shining that flashlight behind me so that people can join the journey with a little bit more grace and ease. So I created this nighttime, I call it like a bedtime lullaby meditation or whatever. And I've gotten great feedback from a few friends of just like, oh my God, it puts me to sleep. I didn't listen to it all because I fell asleep. And I'm like, that's the whole point. And it's not like I'm not tooting my own horn, but it's just the fact that I'm following these nudges. It feels great for me. It brings me joy. And hey, it's helping people, and it's things that
Yeah.
I've been through and learned, and they're just like, hey, this is really helpful. And I'm like, good, because I don't want to be the only one who knows these things, and no one should go through life alone and in the dark.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I love that you do that because that's, even me with starting this podcast, doing the meditation thing is something I love. And me creating a meditation is something that I want to do to put out as well. But it's like, it kind of goes with what you said. It's important that there's many of us who do these things because someone sees your meditation and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Someone might join mine and go, oh no, that's not for me. It's Lauren's. It's Lauren's
Or
that
vice
really,
versa, right?
or vice
Not
versa.
everyone's for me,
Exactly. Or
and
they
that's
might look
okay.
at both of our meditations and be like, no.
Yeah, yeah,
And
go
it's
find someone
that's
else.
fine. Yeah, it's like we need many people to do it, and it's so important, and we all deliver it in our own ways.
Yes.
And that's the important part because everyone's going to take it in different ways. So it's being able to deliver it in the way that suits you and being truthful to that. And the people who are meant to will find you. And those who it doesn't jive with, they're going to find the people who need to get it. It's like what you said. It's not to say anything against the professionals, but sometimes you can do all that. But it's like you just need just the average Joe to say something in a coffee shop, or to catch your podcast and hear something that really jives, or all these different things. Like you never know where it is that it's going to be that one thing that you know turns the light,
Yeah,
flips
and
that switch.
yeah, and I think authenticity is just at the base of it, right? Because when we are fully authentic in our message and how we're delivering it and the intention that we have to delivering that message, that's when we call in like the soul, like if we're doing it as a business, like our soul clients, right? Because they resonate with it on an energetic level if we're putting it out in the right with the right intentions, and that
Yeah.
those are the people, they just click, and you end up with friendships, and and just beautiful, yeah, beautiful friendships and collaborations with that, because it's just like I show up as me. I'm gonna attract or just be a magnet to people who also resonate with what I'm saying, and then that just makes it easy to share because it's like I'm just being me, and these people want to come and hang out. Not everyone wants to, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There needs to be variety. There needs to
Yeah.
be. And I think that's the other thing is the intention behind it. When the intention is truthful and of the utmost good and it's from your soul, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's it carries a vibration, like it's energy itself. So the energy that is carries a vibration. It becomes like a much lighter one, a much higher one that flows a lot easier and just kind of expands out. So, but if
Yeah,
it's kind of having that thing that's true to you and learning to really kind of push forward within that in the greatest sense for yourself, right?
exactly. Following
Hmm.
the nudges.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah. So sorry, I think I kind of took the floor in terms of the questions and whatnot.
No, it's good. I was just, I mean, I was just open to whatever happens. We can do a part two, or I have questions for you too. I was thinking, because I'm
Oh
like off the top of my head, I don't have anything, but I
yeah.
think we definitely need a part two, so then I can take the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anybody listening, there'll be a part two to this. And
Yes, absolutely.
where would you say you're sitting right now in terms of joy? Like, do you think you're like in it? Do you think you're still learning it? Like, where would you put yourself within the spectrum of joy?
Yes, I feel I have a good grasp on how it works for me. However, through different experiences and chapters of my life, I guess, I'm always learning how to better embody those things. I noticed recently that I can sometimes have a really kind of negative outlook on things, and how my identity how I tie my identity to certain I guess mindsets, or yeah, thought processes, behaviors. And I'm starting to catch myself, and I think that as we grow and evolve, we start to become aware of more things that I wouldn't it wouldn't have been available to me before. So now I'm seeing, so I'll be totally open and vulnerable here with my recent kind of epiphany of, when I go through difficult times, losing my dad has been life changing, devastating on many days. I feel like I see some light again, and I'm embracing it and trying to use it to help others. But I notice sometimes that when people ask me how am like, how are you? How are you doing? How are things? I sometimes tend to want to be like, oh, I'm okay, even if like I'm better than okay, because I feel like if I say I'm better than okay, then it's almost like I'm not honoring the grief, or like where or the pain that I feel inside from losing my dad. And man, if he was here, he'd be like, what the hell, Lauren? Let it go, and
Yeah.
he had cancer. So the day that he called me to tell me there are no more options, we had a heart to heart. um and one of the things that he said to me was, he expressed his guilt knowing that he had to leave me too soon. And after having seen how much I suffered with previous losses and how much it affects me, he knows my heart. And
Yes.
he said, his message to me was, I know that this is going to be so difficult for you, but I don't want you to live there forever. I want you essentially to find joy and to continue living and be happy, because I will always be by your side. The relationship will be different, but I'll always be there, and we'll continue to, stay in touch in that sense. So yeah, just being aware of that, and like, am I think I'm better than okay, but I sometimes just like, I'm okay. So just having that awareness of like, yeah, I
Yeah.
hope I feel like I just went off on a tangent, but
Oh no, no, no. I love it. It's an expression of where you're
I'm a
really at.
I'm a student. I'm still learning. I have the tools, but I find myself sometimes I notice these patterns, and I'm like, is this serving me to only tell people I'm okay when I'm actually doing better, and they would be happy to know that I'm doing better? So kind of starting to rewrite the script.
Yeah. And I think we're all students, right? We're all students and we're learning. That's what this is. It's a learning process. It's an opportunity for growth on a spiritual level
Yep.
for, the greater good. And some of it may not make sense to us now, but I'm sure that when our time comes, we'll be able to kind of see it all in the bigger picture and understand it for what it is a lot better. But while we're here, it's like you said, you just gotta take what you can in stride, keep going. You know, sometimes if it's all you can do is a baby step, that's okay too. But
Yeah.
it's knowing to like keep yourself moving.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's like today, like when we started, and then my dog started barking, and we had to take a quick break.
Yeah.
It's like those things. It's like life happens. It's
Yeah.
like Marley knew she was doing something she shouldn't been. So when I go out of my office to go check on her, she's like on the other side of my hut. She's like, hi,
She's like, oh
peeking
crap.
out. Like, she's like, I know I shouldn't have done that, but I did it. We got you out here. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So it's like those things, like you're gonna have interrupters. Tis life. It's like just take it in stride as much as you can. And when it, becomes a big kick, then just take the time to heal and just know that the healing will come.
Breathe
Everything is
through it. Yeah.
yeah, life is like a
Breathe
wheel.
through it.
It just keeps on turning, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. So thank you so much for doing this with me. Thank you
Thank
for
you for
connecting.
having me. Yeah.
And
Thank
yes, we
you.
will connect for a part two and do it a little differently that way. But before we end it, I did want to give you an opportunity. So this is going to be coming on February 21st. So I don't know if there's anything after that that you're aware of that you're going to have set up coming up, or even just let everybody know where they can find you, where they can touch base with you, and what you got going on.
Yeah. I have lots of ideas in my head. I haven't sat down. So essentially the Living on Lemonade brand is a podcast. I am currently in my spare time putting um the video of the podcast episodes on YouTube as a channel. If you watch them, I didn't know I was going to use them, so like they're just kind of like there's nothing polished about it, but that's just me showing up. So just don't mind whatever's going on if I'm a hot mess and just thought I was sitting down to record an audio and my hair's cray cray and whatever. So anyways, the podcast, the YouTube channel's in the works, and I think I have 12 episodes up. So it's started. And I have a Facebook community, again, Living on Lemonade with Lauren. I do monthly classes, as I mentioned, and I started doing, I have two scheduled for February. I don't know if one will be after the 21st. I think there might be, I'm trying to think, there's something on the 26th, but I'd have to look at my calendar. Anyway, if you pop in the group, there's stuff going on. I do what I call soul care hour. And it's essentially I have one in the evening and one I think at like 1 p.m. one day in the month, just so I have a couple different time slots for people. It's just an opportunity to come in, have some community, talk about soul care, self-care, taking care of ourselves, what brings us joy, creating that tool belt so that again we can be self-driven and self-sufficient through the difficult times. So bouncing ideas off of each other, but also if we just need an hour that we just want to like sit and chat, people can, if they want to do their nails or like do a face mask, like whatever that looks like, come hang out for an hour. We'll just chit chat about life and how to navigate stuff. And then I have a self-study. It's essentially a 5-week mindfulness meditation course. It's all set up, the modules are created and everything, so that's available through the Living on Lemonade brand. And I have ideas to create more paid offers. I also have the free stuff, right? So there's a bit of both worlds. And yeah, it's been a beautiful and hilarious journey so far. Just with how the nudges have come in, and I've been following the breadcrumbs, and it's fun. It's where I want to be, and a lot of people in the group are lovely. So we have a good time together.
Yeah, it's. I think it's something like I said before. It's something really amazing you've got going on. So it's like that. The podcast, Living on Lemonade with Lauren, the Facebook community you've got. Then you're on TikTok and Instagram as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I have it's MZZ, like Ms. Lauren Gilhula on TikTok, Instagram, and the YouTube channel is that tagline as well. Yeah. So it's there's definitely stuff coming up. I've been in a chapter of my life where I'm like purging the house and just creating physical space that I know will then open up kind of emotional and mental capacity as well. So not so much in the creative sense with that stuff, but maintaining things with the intention that things will be coming down the line. So keep an eye on that. I also do oracle readings too, right? So
Yeah, that's
mhm.
right. You're getting into that. I love that because I see you as somebody who is so intuitive. And I do think that you were spiritually led into the
Yeah,
podcast and the Living
it
with
was.
Lemony
It
with
happened
Lauren.
after my dad died.
Yeah, it was like an intuitive push to like get this going and really continue down this path for your own healing as well as helping others heal. So I love that you're kind of getting into the Oracle tarot cards. Um,
Yeah, it's been fun. And I call them like inspiration spreads. So I pull cards and then I just get whatever messages come intuitively to me to help give someone. Uh, it's also tools that like help them discover themselves. I don't want to just be one that's just like telling them what to do, but it's like I'm helping them, helping guide so they can discover themselves and empower themselves. So it's these little inspirational readings that I do. They're fun.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and it's fun. Sometimes just anybody can grab a deck and they can kind of play with it, do like a card pull for themselves every day.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not big on them. Like I will teach tarot for beginners, so it's a bit of a course that I actually did a course in January, and I just so happened to pull a card on this podcast to see how it
Yeah.
was cool, and it's so funny because there's two cards that popped out and it was the lovers, which is like
Oh.
literally it's like right here. So it's like it almost shows like the coming together of us to create something that is love based. But then I also got the three of hearts, which is heartache. So it's like the acknowledgement of the
Oh.
pain and the heartache and the things people go through. And so it's funny because I don't usually do this, but I was like, look, it's us and what we're talking about.
Yes. And I pulled this card from my Healing Waters deck. It's called The Mist and it says trust your inner compass, be led from within. And I was like,
Here we
here we
go.
go. This is
Yeah.
perfect for this conversation. And it has been. The
Yeah.
message is beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
talking about like going through that mist and not being able to see far ahead of yourself, but
Yeah.
trusting that if you go you're led from within, you'll hit the sunshine again.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's so amazing because sometimes it's like the path is so bright and lit up. It's like you can see and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're gonna hit, choppy waters or like the misty sections where it's like we can't even see we can't even barely see our own feet as we're trying to walk this path. And it's like just know like the mist will clear, but sometimes you can find beauty within the mist, like the quietness,
Yeah.
the grace in all of it. So yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you're doing that. So
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for doing this with me. So thank you so much for those who are listening to my podcast, and thank you so much for those who are listening to your podcast.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, this has been fantastic, and we will be back for part two.
I'm
Where
excited for part two.
I
Take
know it's
care, everyone.
going to be Lauren led. It's going to be
Yes.
fantastic. Okay, bye everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Mhm.